Thank you for joining us for the Dog Ate My Grant application, which is a crowdfunding webinar hosted by the International Diaspora Engagement Alliance and Indiegogo. My name is Sarah Yousefnejad Gallagher, and I'm the Program Officer for IDEA. This webinar is part of our Capacity Development Series, and we're really excited to partner with such a stellar platform as Indiegogo. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this platform when it comes to crowdfunding. One of the top requests we get from our members is about how to seek funding for the work they're doing. And while our members range, organizational types and missions, we hope that this webinar will offer a new possibility as far as income streams are concerned for the work they do. So I'd now like to turn it over and introduce Bre Digiammarino, the Senior Director of Cause Fundraising at Indiegogo, where she connects nonprofits, social entrepreneurs, and individuals with the resources they need to best use crowdfunding. Prior to Indiegogo, Bre worked at the Social Venture Fund at the Draper Richards Kaplan Foundation and the nonprofit consulting firm Bridgespan Group. So with that, I'll turn it over to Bre. Bre, welcome.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me today, and it's a treat to join you all. Thanks for joining the webinar. I am the Senior Director of now what we call Generosity Outreach at Indiegogo because we are very excited to announce that just last week we launched a site dedicated to cause fundraising. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about why we did that before delving in today. Indiegogo was founded in 2008 by our three founders who each had very different reasons for wanting to democratize access to capital. They all had dreams they wanted to pursue and were facing gatekeepers in doing that. They founded Indiegogo as an open place to enable people to raise funding from their community and then the greater crowd online. And since that launch, the platform has grown tremendously. We now have campaign owners and contributors in more than 200 countries and territories, raising millions of dollars every week for purposes that are very different. They have everything from a tech product raising its first startup funding on the site to a creative product running a campaign to bring its film to life, and also cause-based fundraisers, which is where I have worked since 2012 at Indiegogo. Our cause fundraisers are everything from individuals raising money for themselves and those they love to perhaps go on a volunteer trip or to cover medical expenses. There are also nonprofits raising money for their programs, from small program budgets to very large. And there are also social enterprises or startup businesses that have a social mission associated with them. In order to best provide a home for these cause fundraisers, we have launched Generosity to be a place where these fundraisers have features that are specific to them, as well as support that is really experienced in the cause space, and also pricing that is really valuable for causes. So on Generosity by Indiegogo, we have 0% platform fees, meaning that there's no required Indiegogo fee when you run a fundraiser there. A donor has the choice to make a donation to Indiegogo when they make their contribution, but it's never required. And the only fees that are required are the third-party payment processing fees of 3% plus 30 cents per donation. This is in comparison to the 5% fees you would find on Indiegogo or on most other platforms out there. The other thing about Generosity is that it has features that are really strong for nonprofits, and we're actually continuing to build those out. So you'll see additional features for nonprofit and other causes over the course of the next few weeks and months. And though it's its own home and own site at generosity.com, we're very excited about this URL. It also has the value of Indiegogo's larger community. So we are able to share the fundraisers that run on Generosity in the Indiegogo newsletter, which goes to millions of people, and in the Indiegogo social media, which has hundreds of thousands of followers. So that's just a bit of context on where I'm coming from. I'll show you a quick screenshot of the homepage of Generosity, which we're very excited about. So do check it out and let me know what you think. If you have any thoughts for us on what we should do, we're open to hearing them. Today, what we're going to talk about is Giving Tuesday and how to make the most of Giving Tuesday for crowdfunding. In addition to this overall effort, we'll talk about the specifics of framing your fundraiser and creating your draft, launching that with momentum, and then making the most of that fundraiser on Giving Tuesday itself. So let's delve in and talk about what Giving Tuesday even is. Giving Tuesday was founded in 2012 to launch holiday giving on the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. It was founded by the 92nd Street Y and has grown very quickly since then. Now we have seen more than 30,000 partners across 68 countries participate in Giving Tuesday, including a Twitter impression and hashtag mention reached in the millions. You see here that they have seen 15.4 billion impressions in print and social media, and a very notable increase of 470% in online donations on Giving Tuesday itself. So really an exciting movement to take this holiday season and add some giving into the very beginning of it. So why crowdfund for Giving Tuesday? Well, crowdfunding is a really neat phenomenon that is enabling people to put their ideas online and rally their community for it. And for causes in particular, it can really help to increase your donor base, the number of donors you have, as well as the diversity of donors you have, and also raise additional dollars and awareness for your work, as well as, of course, enable more impact. When you have all of the above, you get to actually do more of the important work you're doing and achieve more impact. A fantastic example of the value of crowdfunding is the Girl Scouts of Western Washington, which is why I included their picture here. A few months ago, they were offered $100,000 as a gift from a major donor, yet the major donor rescinded the gift when learning that Girl Scouts were for every girl, including trans girls. So they took that 100K back. Now, the Girl Scouts wanted to be very clear with the message that Girl Scouts are for every girl. So they launched a fundraiser to raise $100,000 to cover that lost grant that they had to return. And in fact, this hashtag and this effort really got a lot of momentum from their community and then the broader community and ultimately the press and of course Indiegogo's community, that they were able to raise more than $300,000 for their work from more than 7,000 donors. So it was really quite powerful. Now, one question I get a lot is why should I use a platform for my fundraising rather than do it just on my own site? And a few of the key reasons are that a platform offers very easy social media. So we spend a lot of our time thinking about how to integrate our fundraisers with social media. We find Facebook is the source of most traffic for generosity and a very powerful tool. So we really make sure that our site integrates really effectively with Facebook so that you can get the word out about your fundraisers and drive that traffic back to your fundraiser page and convert that traffic into donors. So we've really studied this a lot and have really done a lot of work there. We also help you to reach new audiences, both through that secondary network of Facebook sharing, which I just talked about, but also through the Indiegogo community. At this point, we have about 15 million visitors to the site every month and millions of people who receive our newsletter that we're able to include generosity fundraisers in. So it's really a nice way to expand that reach and find people who care about what you're doing who you might never have known to reach out to before the fundraiser itself. There aren't any platform fees on generosity, as I mentioned, so you're not losing any funds by running on the platform. And we actually have the ability to integrate the fundraiser onto your own site as well. So in addition to having the fundraiser on Indiegogo and Generosity, you can also have it on your own site, and we can even enable donations on your own site. So we have a very strong API for that purpose. And if you have a lot of organic traffic to your site, this is a great thing to do. We also have worked a lot with many fundraisers and have learned a ton. So we have amazing support and advice, both in the form of resources such as our toolkits and guides, but also in the form of our personalized support team who are always available to respond within 24 hours to any inquiry sent to support@generosity.com. So all of those are good reasons. And for Giving Tuesday itself, we are very excited to be aggregating all of our participating generosity fundraisers in one place where we can share them all with the world together. This is what we call a collections page, and we are creating that for Giving Tuesday. We will be also sharing a dedicated newsletter on Giving Tuesday to the entire Indiegogo community, showcasing a set of our participating Giving Tuesday fundraisers. So it's a great time to launch a fundraiser. If you go to this site here, igg.me/GivingTuesday, you can sign up to learn more about this initiative and everything that we're doing in terms of support for it. We already have several resources we have shared, and I'm happy to share those with everyone who signs up, such as our suggested timeline for when to launch a fundraiser and how to promote it and how to put it together, as well as our very specific toolkit for how to do so. We'll get into a lot more detail now, but always great for you to follow up with registering at this site. Okay, so now let's jump into talking about how to frame your fundraiser. Okay, so the first thing to do when you are framing your fundraiser is to think about the purpose of what you want to do. So why are you running this initiative? And the best initiatives will actually be intimately connected to your overall goals as an organization. What are you trying to achieve? Are you looking to increase your donor base to include more generations of people? So touching a younger audience is important. Are you looking to get geographical expansion so that your work will be in another location? So this is an effort to start to raise awareness in a new geography. What are you trying to achieve? And think through how an online fundraiser can be part of that. Now, you do want to be as specific as you can be while still being inspiring and attainable. So thinking through the idea of how much you need in order to move forward your goal and how your online fundraiser can be a part of that. And we'll talk a bit more about how to choose that dollar amount. But first, framing it from the overall purpose perspective is a good place to be. So in this example, I'm actually sharing an example from a fundraiser to support a college for women in Afghanistan. And this project was very clear that they were funding the future of Afghan women with a fundraiser with a goal of $115,000, which is really all they needed to move forward this work. And they did a nice job here of framing the amount they needed plus the impact that that was enabling by sharing a very compelling stat that really helps to support their purpose. Now, I would say being even a bit more specific about what your dollars are providing in this particular set of information would be perhaps even stronger. So you could say that you're funding the future of Afghan women by specifically doing the following. And here they say, purchase the property, construction of the school, recruiting teachers, buying the desks. So that's very helpful. It's very tangible. Even breaking that down to be clear about how much each of those items requires could be a good thing to do. And you could even start by having a lower goal that's just for one of those pieces, like $15K helps us to purchase the property. And then once you hit that $15K, set what we call a stretch goal to raise the funds that cover the construction of the school. And then once you hit that, set another goal for recruiting the teachers, et cetera. So really thinking about your goal and breaking that up and often starting with the lowest amount you need can be highly effective. And I would encourage you to think through your purpose, both in terms of the work you're doing, your program, but also in terms of the financial side and the awareness you need for the impact that you are trying to obtain. Now, once you have your overall scope, so you're building a school for Afghan women, think about how you can make it personal, because we find time and again that people are giving to people first and foremost. Rather than a project or a product or anything else, they really get touched by the personal connection. And I think this is most true on crowdfunding, because people who are coming to an online fundraiser are looking to participate in a very special way and feel connected to the work. So you can think about making it personal from multiple perspectives, and you don't necessarily need to choose any one of these. You can be creative here, but think about who is the person running the fundraiser. So is it that you're sharing the fundraiser from the perspective of the founder of your organization, or is it from the executive director's perspective, maybe a staff member, or a board member, a donor, or a volunteer? Having a person who actually is so committed that they're willing to say, I'm in supporting this fundraiser, I've launched this fundraiser because that gives it that very powerful personal connection that will inspire others to be part of it, because people want to support other people. If you have, let's say, your executive director say, I have launched this fundraiser because our organization needs to expand, and I feel very personally committed to this expansion because, and really sharing those special touch points. I love this video that the college in Afghanistan included in their fundraiser, because they really speak to this personal aspect. They actually included a testimonial from somebody who is saying that they believe in the founder, Razia, because they've seen her work in the past and the impact that it has had. She's already launched a K-12 school and is now opening a college for Afghan women, so they know she can be successful. And this personal testimonial can be very valuable. This video was in the story or text of the fundraiser, and it was a very nice addition to it. In addition to the person who's running the fundraiser, including a personal story about a beneficiary is very important too. That will help people to see the types of people who their work is supporting. Now, if you have a specific person who the work will support and you can highlight that person, that's fantastic. That really helps get the personal touch. It's not always the case that you have the option to do that. So having a person who you've helped in the past or one of the many people who you will help in the future can be a really nice way to share that. I mentioned that we would talk about the dollar goal that you want to set, and we really suggest setting an attainable goal. Now, an attainable goal will be a different amount for every fundraiser based on their own community and their own work. What we suggest is that you really think through how you will raise 30% of your goal in the first 48 hours after going live. It's really that early momentum that is a social proof point to the broader community that what you are doing is credible, it is important, it is going to be able to succeed, and it is something that they want to be a part of. Now, this page is demonstrating this effect by sharing two fundraisers, each of which has raised $20,000. And you can see, if you look at them, that they have a very different feel. The one on the left feels like it's very exciting and off to a great start. And that's because it has raised 40% of its goal compared to the other one, which has raised 13. So this effect is important to use effectively yourself, and make sure that you are setting your own goal in such a way that it can be attainable. Now, a lot of times I get the question, well, how do I know how much I can raise in the first 48 hours? And it's a great question. What we suggest is thinking through your closest community. Who are those board members? Who are those donors? Who are your friends? And actually pick up the phone and ask them, will you be willing to contribute right away after I go live? And how much can I count on you for? And really get a bit of a gauge there so that you know, because those early donors are going to be very important for setting the message. I mentioned that you can always raise more than your goal. And that's a fantastic thing to do and very common. But what we find is that if you set a lower goal and then hit it, you can exceed it easily. Whereas if you set a very high goal and struggle to get to that first 30%, it can often be very hard to get to your goal. So think carefully about that. I did see that Sarah shared with me that you have had some folks in the community at Idea run fundraisers, and I heard that of the 5 people who are raising about $750 to cover the cost of their fellowship, all of them were able to hit or exceed that goal. So she shared this was a woman named Bre Digiammarino, and she shared this example and the message that it's quite valuable for you to think through how you will communicate the additional impact you can achieve once you hit that initial goal. And that's a fantastic message to have in your back pocket. It's a fantastic place to be. So think through your initial impact and then how much more you can achieve if you raise above your goal. So that's a bit on framing your fundraiser. Let's now jump into creating your draft. So a draft creation and fundraiser initiative can be a lot of work. You know, a bit depends on how you frame it. If you're a person who's running a very personal fundraiser to cover a personal cost, like the cost of a fellowship, travel, and living expense, or a person raising money for medical bills for yourself or a friend, those ones can actually go pretty quickly because it's so much compelled by you as a person in your closest community. So those ones we have found you can get up and running in just a couple minutes and start sharing and really achieve quite a lot very fast. When you're looking to raise perhaps higher dollar amounts and perhaps more of an organizational effort rather than that individual effort, it does take more planning, and we find that it can be very helpful to have a team together who can split some of these roles and responsibilities. On this page, I've shared some of these examples of roles that you can share across multiple people. You might have one person who's your writer, putting together the plan for your text and then drafting that and iterating on it. You might have someone on design who's helping to create infographics or visual examples of your impact and work. Those are very powerful to help people easily get an idea of what you're doing and visually engage with it. Somebody on video. We find that fundraisers, especially for organizational initiatives that have videos, are quite effective, that they raise over 100% more than those without. So somebody who helps with that, somebody thinking through the donation levels. These are suggested levels of donation that your donors can contribute at and sometimes get a small reward back from. We'll talk more about that. Social media and PR, somebody who can plan out your messages that you will share on social media and when you will share them, somebody to talk with the press, and then also customer service, somebody who will respond to comments on your page and help you to make sure that you are sending thank you notes to your donors. Things like that can be very helpful. Now, you don't necessarily need to have a full team, so it's not a requirement. One person can certainly do it all, and if you divide up your work over a lot of different days and dedicate small amounts each day, that can be very successful, but it can be a nice thing to do and quite helpful when you have that option. I love this picture from the Afghan college because it shows they got their community involved and even had them all make a little thank you note. Okay, so put together your story. You're ready to think through how you're going to frame your fundraiser and communicate it. You have your purpose, now you're thinking through what's your story behind it. When you're thinking through your story, you want to really communicate right away in the first 30 seconds of a video or the first 3 lines of your fundraiser text what you're doing and why you're doing it and how much you need to do it. So in this case, the funds from the campaign were going directly to Razia's foundation to build the school. And they shared this information plus the fact that it solves a seemingly intractable problem very quickly in the fundraiser video and on the text. I highly recommend that. From this high-level summary, you can then delve into more details, sharing the more context on the problem that you are addressing and why it should matter to the people who are looking at your fundraiser. Why is this a problem that we need to address together? And what role can you play in solving it together? What is your solution? Then going into more detail on your budget. So what do you need in order to pursue your goals? How much do you need? Where is that money going? That's very valuable for people to understand your work more clearly and believe in it and want to be a part of it. Then concluding with the opportunities for involvement. In addition to donating, sharing your fundraiser will be very valuable. Are there other things that people could do to be helpful? Are you looking for volunteers? What kind of efforts would be helpful? Throughout all of this, being as discreet as possible is helpful, and being achievable yet ambitious and inspiring throughout is really quite valuable. With respect to your write-up in particular, you do want to provide that credible information that will help to offer an authentic perspective of what you're doing that's very transparent. So who are you and why are you doing this work? For the Afghan college, the write-up shares that the people running the fundraiser are part of Principal Pictures. They had actually created a film about education in Afghanistan, and this work is a follow-up to that. Sometimes our organizations will actually share their GuideStar rating. If they are a 501c3 and have a GuideStar rating, gold, silver, they can share that information right on the page. Sometimes they share reviews they have received on great nonprofits, the nonprofit review site. So they might actually pull a quote from a volunteer or a beneficiary who has provided a review on great nonprofits. Throughout all of this, sharing that you're communicating in a simple way where you're sharing your work in a very clear way is helpful, and breaking up the text with visual infographics or images is quite valuable to make it engaging and give people a chance to really see your work come to life. Another great way to see your work come to life is through your video. As I mentioned, you want that first 30 seconds to really get to the most important high-level summary of what you're doing. And from there, you can go into more detail, but really keep it short. You want it to be a maximum of 3 minutes long. Throughout that, you want it to be personal and share somebody's specific story, and then make it very specific to the fundraiser. I have seen nonprofits in the past simply pull a video that they've used for another event, like a gala or otherwise, and put it on their fundraiser page, but that doesn't provide a unique connection for your potential donors and is not as effective as creating even a very simple video that's you behind an iPhone sharing your story. That authentic connection, even for a simple video that might not have high production quality but has high personal connection, is really the way to go. This video for the Afghani college was featuring their founder and a woman who grew up in Afghanistan, Razia. Now, this video was actually one that was in their text, and I pulled it more for the image of her and showing how they used this video to showcase her story. But it's too long to have been their headline video. 6 minutes is too long. I would definitely max out at 3 minutes for your headline video. But you can certainly integrate other videos into your story, and that can be a nice thing to do and a nice place to put a video that you have used at a gala or elsewhere into that story. Once you have your write-up and your video, you can think through your donation levels. So you can think through, how much should I recommend to people to donate, and is there something I can offer to them in exchange for that donation? It's important to note that donation levels are optional. You don't need to have them. We do find that they can be helpful to anchor people at different levels. We find that in general, the $25 level is the most frequently contributed level, and the $100 level is the one that tends to generate the most revenue. With the donation levels, you do want to think about fulfillment. How hard is it going to be for you to actually fulfill the promises you make at the donation level? And think of ways to keep it simple. Think of ways to make it very fun and personalized, but not that they are so hard to fulfill. The examples on this page are neat examples across the different types we see. You can offer a level of impact. How much impact will you enable at a different contribution level? Like, for example, at $250 for an education schoolyard effort, you're sponsoring a tree. That's a neat example of a perk. For a physical item, you might be able to offer something if you have, for example, a company that has donated to you. This bottom right-hand perk here is an example of clothing that a company donated that then the organization was able to offer on their page in exchange for contribution. Those can be great, but they do sometimes require that fulfillment. So do think about that and make sure that you are setting the perk level at a dollar amount where you are able to cover any shipping costs that you might incur or the cost of the item if you do need to purchase it. Digital rewards can be fantastic. You can send somebody a playlist that you listen to while you're doing your work. You could send somebody a digital thank you card. These kinds of creative ideas can really offer a personalized experience that's really special. I like some of these examples here that are very personal along these lines, like the personal thank you from the founder of the Afghan college, a framed poem from a student, so something that connects you to those beneficiaries. And then the thank you card and seeds for the school garden one, where you actually get a tiny piece of their work in the form of the seeds. Experiences can be good too. It might be the case that you can offer people to join a webinar where you share your learnings. You might be able to invite people for a site visit to your work. You might be able to invite them to a cocktail hour in the city in which you're living to learn more about what you're doing. You can be really creative on that side. Okay, so you've created your draft and now you are ready to launch. You're ready to think through your promotion side. I would say that your promotion work is a very important piece of your fundraiser, perhaps as important as your fundraiser page itself, if not more so. So think through what all of your opportunities are to communicate with your community. What are those touch points where you can reach people? And I've put them on this page in order of actually chronology. So what order you want to start to connect with people. In person, start by talking with people when you see them. How much do they want to help you? Do they want to volunteer to help with one of those roles? Do they want to review the fundraiser? Can you count on them to donate? Can you ask them to help you to raise a certain amount from their community? Those in-person conversations will give you a good initial understanding of how excited your community is for this effort. From there, moving to the telephone, following up on those conversations and starting to have more with the types of people who are interested. Are you finding that your donor base in a particular region is most excited to support this particular project? Call them up, get them to know about what you're doing and ask for their input, and line up how you'll get them engaged in the future. From there, moving to email. That's a very effective form of communication. It's direct. You can send people direct information and get them to engage with you directly. Once you are live and have communicated via email, social media is a good next step. That will help you to get the word out to a broader set of people who you know, but also who know people you know, so it gets you to that secondary level. From there, updates, keeping your fundraiser engaging throughout its duration, making sure that people are able to stay engaged with your fundraiser even after they've donated, helps them to sometimes donate again, and also to share your fundraiser again in their networks. Once you've hit that about 30% of your goal, you might start to find that there is interest from the press. You can start to reach out to your local press and see if they might want to cover it, or engage industry. Are there people who cover the topic area you're working in? Those kinds of press outlets start to be effective. You also can engage in offline sharing in events throughout the duration of your fundraiser. You might have an offline event where you're actually doing a bake sale or having a gala, and having your fundraiser available at those places can be effective, or just collecting emails and following up after the event with your fundraiser link can be very valuable to get additional momentum. So let's go into a few of these more specifically. Ahead of your launch, you do, as I mentioned, want to make sure that you've thought about how you'll raise that first 30%. So on this page, you're seeing the full amount that the Afghan College was able to raise, that $119.8 thousand, which was fantastic that they hit that and they were able to get that momentum that got them there. So ahead of time, thinking about that close community and engaging them, you might even do things like have mini meetups. Perhaps you work in different regions. You might have a meetup in each region and ask them to look at the fundraiser page. Maybe you have a snippet of your video that you can share in each region to help them feel like they are part of the special group who got to see the fundraiser before it's live. Then in the few days before the fundraiser, you can also start to identify those major donors to your fundraiser. Now, major might have a different definition depending on the size of your full effort. Maybe a major donor is one at the $100 level. Maybe a major donor is 1,000. Maybe it's 10,000. Maybe it's 100,000. But think through what's a major donor to you, and make sure that you have a couple of them who will contribute to your fundraiser in the earliest of days as what we call a seed donor to help you get to that first 30%. And then you might actually ask a few of them to hold on to their donations and use those as what we call an incentive donation, so that they can contribute to your fundraiser during the fundraiser's course. You might have it be that they will say to you during the fundraiser, if we're able to get this fundraiser to 50%, then our major donor will contribute the next $5,000. Something like that can be a really nice way to add that urgency and amplify the impact of one of the donors who wants to help you. Once you're ready to go, make sure that you connect with your closest community to share with them that you're about to launch. So the day before you launch is a nice time to do this, where you can send out a note saying, tomorrow we're going to go live and we're going to need your help as our closest friends to give us the credibility to get the rest of the world engaged. So start that reconnection right before launch, and then on the launch day, send out an email personalized if possible to different communities to share that you have gone live and get that first 30% in the door. Once you have gone live and gotten that first 30%, you will be in a great place to start to share updates and continue the cultivation of your community. You want to post an update to your fundraiser, which will trigger an email to your donors who have already contributed at least once a week, possibly 2, 3, up to every couple days or so, with a mix of personal and impact stories as well as fundraiser updates. On this page, I'm sharing with you a beautiful handwritten note from one of the students at the Afghan school, which was a nice way to connect the community to the impact that they were enabling. It really is a good way for you to share content and cultivate those people to become your biggest advocates. And you can actually roll out and promote incentive donations in this way. The school garden fundraiser I've mentioned before found that during the run of their fundraiser, they were actually able to have a lot of social media momentum with Facebook postings, and a major donor saw a post about their work on Facebook, found them offline and said, we want to contribute, I believe it was $10,000 to your fundraiser as a matching gift. So how about we set that up so that if you raise a certain amount, we'll donate $10,000. So they did that and were able to get people involved to hit that goal, and it was very effective. So it was a neat example of how the fundraiser's excellent social media integrations enabled a major gift and enabled the catalyzation of additional donors. Once you have done a great job with your cultivation, you want to keep that up, and it's also a great time for getting those additional audiences to the plate. So the Indiegogo generosity communities are really strong groups of passionate people, and once you hit that about 30%, 30 to 60%, you'll start to see your fundraiser showing up higher on the homepage and appearing in our social media and other feeds more frequently. So we can help to get that Indiegogo and generosity community behind you. It's also a good time to go out to press. They like to cover fundraisers that are getting momentum. And it's a good time to go to relevant groups. Is there an alumni group who might be interested in your work because they know they are connected with some of the people involved through their universities or high school alumni groups? Are there neighborhoods that might be especially interested? You could post on Nextdoor, the neighborhood site. You could look for Facebook groups that are relevant and ask the organizer if they'd be willing to send out a note to their community or post an update on their page. Finding these affiliate groups is a super powerful way to get a very excited group of people who will be very excited about your work to know about it. I included celebrities on this page because sometimes our organizations or people running fundraisers do find celebrities who want to help. That can be great. The best is when the celebrity is involved and makes a donation, him or herself, and also promotes it to his or her community. Maybe they offer a donation level reward, such as a chance to do a meet and greet with the celebrity or have a signed picture or something like that. The best celebrity engagement is when they are engaged over a longer period of time. So they share multiple times rather than just one social media post. And it doesn't necessarily need to be the biggest mainstream celebrity who supports you to make it valuable. It could simply be somebody who's known in your industry or your area, because those celebrities are actually often quite likely to be very engaged and care a lot about your work and actually offer that credibility that is really powerful. Let's move now to talking about Giving Tuesday itself. Giving Tuesday this year is December 1st, the first Tuesday after Thanksgiving. So that means that you want to be preparing ahead of time because you want to use Giving Tuesday as a chance to amplify your fundraiser rather than to launch your fundraiser. Because people will donate to fundraisers that already have demonstrated success, you want to get to that 30% ahead of December 1st. And then you can use December 1st as a chance to activate that early donor base in order to recruit additional donors. So backing that all up, we find that in October, it's a good time to set your goals, get together your team, and start putting together your draft. We actually have just released our fundraiser creation toolkit that has fantastic information about all of these pieces. So definitely go to that igg.me/GivingTuesday page in order to sign up for access to that. And I'll also talk with Sarah to see if she wants to send that out after this. In early November, you want to start creating your promotion plan to think through how are you going to announce the launch of this fundraiser, who will be that first community to donate, and how will they help you get to a broader audience. By mid-November, so we're suggesting to people by about November 16th, no later than the 23rd, you want to go live so that you can raise that first 30%, ideally before Thanksgiving, because we find that the best days to go live are early in the week. So a Sunday night or a Monday morning, Tuesday or Wednesday, those are great days to get the engagement of your community because they're often at their computer and able to help. It's harder to get that community involved on a weekend or on a holiday when they're often not in front of their computer. So you want to get them engaged before Thanksgiving. Then right before Giving Tuesday itself, you can send your community an action to perform on Giving Tuesday. Share with them a specific message you want them to share. And then on December 1st, you can share that message and activate your community to do that and help you get to your Giving Tuesday goals. Then afterwards, thank that community and share your results. How many tweets were you able to get? How many donors? How many dollars were you able to get? And then continue those updates throughout the month, both in terms of impact that you're able to achieve, as well as your fundraiser status updates, like what percent of your goal you're at and how much you have raised. To go into a little more depth here, think about Giving Tuesday as an opportunity to call your community to action. Is there a dollar or a percent of your fundraiser goal that you want to hit on that day? Do you have an incentive donation available? Do you have a donor who would say, if your fundraiser raises $10,000 on Giving Tuesday, I'll donate $10,000. So you have that special call to action available. And then once you know what you're looking to achieve on that day, create your template posts so that your community can very easily share your call to action with their own communities. You see a sample here where it's for an organization called Common Vision, and they're looking to raise, let's say, 50% of their goal on Giving Tuesday itself. So they have a specific message for that. Think through what you're trying to achieve and create your own. Again, we will be providing some more resources along these lines in what we're calling our amplification toolkit and potentially a workbook to go with that. So sign up for more info to get that resource as well. Then you activate your community. Once you have that call to action, you go ahead and send that template social media post to your community via your updates on your fundraiser, via email. You can share it on social media, and then throughout the day, you can continue to post via social media. So share milestones you're hitting. Like, we've raised 45% of our goal, only 5% left to hit our 50% goal for unlocking the donor, things like that. You can thank individual people on social media. That public thanks can be a very nice thing to do, and really keep that up all day long. You're seeing here an example thank you post that you might share when somebody contributes to your fundraiser. This little image on the right-hand side here for Giving Tuesday activities is part of our fundraiser creation preparation calendar that we also can share with you and perhaps send out after this, which has all of our specific suggested activities to do between now and the end of the year to integrate your fundraiser with Giving Tuesday. And then once Giving Tuesday has passed, the fun doesn't stop. You can keep up momentum throughout the month by sharing a wrap-up blog post or email, or even just a fundraiser update with the impact that you've been able to achieve so far, and particularly on Giving Tuesday. Thank your donors for helping you get to where you have gotten already, and encourage them to help you hit your full end-of-year goals with clarity on what those goals are. So that's what I got for you now. I think we have a bunch of questions. This is on this page, a list of the resources we do have available. The prep calendar I mentioned, we have a marketing template, and that fundraiser creation toolkit. Those are all available already, and we will have in the next few weeks the amplification toolkit including promotion and press tools by mid-November. So it's an exciting season. Last year, we saw more than 350 fundraisers raise more than $10 million as part of Giving Tuesday in 2014. And given what we have learned and the strength of the Generosity site this year, we hope to enable even more impact. So thanks for having me, and happy to pause now and take any questions.
Bre, thank you so much for the presentation and all of that info. I know it's a lot to take in, but based on the questions, I can see that people are really absorbing and starting to think about their particular campaigns, and they want to ask you more. So if it's okay, I'll just go through some of the questions that people have been sending through. So the first one's from Raj in Illinois. Can you extend the deadline if you don't reach your goal?
Yes, actually on Generosity, we do not have built-in end dates for fundraisers. So your fundraiser will stay live until you click end fundraiser. Many of our organizations and people simply keep their fundraisers open indefinitely so that they can get contributions even beyond the date when they're actively promoting the fundraiser.
Great. And Peggy from DC, I think, is asking, does the organization need to have a 501c3, or is this any cause or group?
Any cause initiative is welcome to run on Generosity and is welcome to participate in our Giving Tuesday efforts. You do not need to have a specific financial or legal structure.
Great, thank you. Question from Virginia. Are there examples of integrated campaigns with social networking mechanisms like Nation Builder, which I think is a movement building platform?
Well, it's funny you asked that because I actually just spoke with folks from Nation Builder yesterday, and we are actively building out the, resources and tools to make it super easy to integrate with Nation Builder. It's already quite easy because on the back end of your fundraiser, you will get a list of all of your donors by name and email address and amount donated, which you can download as a CSV document, and you can integrate that with your other platforms, whether it's Salesforce or others out there, so that you can manage your donor base in the future and integrate with other efforts.
Okay, great, thank you. Let's see, how can you, so another question from Virginia, how can you do an effective strategy for multi-regional programs? So this is when you have multiple programs in the same country or in different countries, and say you want to do a campaign including all of those. How would you recommend structuring that campaign strategically?
It's a great question, and there's no one answer. There are a bunch of different ways that you can do that. What I would encourage you to do is think through what are your overall goals and who are the point people for achieving them. So to add a couple examples that might help make this clearer. I had one organizer who wanted to go on a national tour. She was actually a YouTuber who has a show called My Drunk Kitchen. It's hilarious. She wanted to take this show on the road, but she didn't have a specific tour route yet. So what she did was every time somebody contributed, she was able to ask them where they were from, and she used their geography as a vote for her traveling to their location. And she actually mapped out her tour route based on the locations from which her donors were from. This was quite an innovative way to bring a lot of geographies to the table for her fundraiser and actually engage them in a very fun and special way. Now that worked well because she's one person who was organizing a multi-geographic effort. If, on the other hand, she was working with, or you're a nonprofit who has chapters in different locations, and there's a specific person who runs each chapter, you might want to set it up such that each chapter has its own fundraiser and activates their own community. I think this can be a good idea, but it's actually very challenging to manage a lot of different people. So if you have, in my instinct, based on experience, is that if you have the opportunity to make one great fundraiser, the sum of its parts can often be stronger than having several smaller ones because it builds on itself and that momentum begets momentum. But that said, if your communities are very different, if the purpose of the different locations fundraising efforts would be different, and you have strong community point people in each location, by all means, setting it up as multiple fundraisers can be effective. And we do have what we call a collections page where we can actually aggregate fundraisers that are part of a single effort all in one place with a headline image and language so that you can actually point people there if you'd like to.
Thank you. I think that's some good options for that kind of situation. Another question about launching campaigns in developing countries. The pre-launch fundraising probably comes from personal networks, but many folks don't use Indiegogo payment systems. I'm guessing this is in developing countries. Is there a recommended strategy for using local payment systems like M-Pesa, for example?
We have used on Generosity a payment processor called Stripe, and we love working with Stripe because they are pretty flexible and very strong in their support. So it's a great system. We're very happy with it. It does work with credit card contributions. So I totally hear you that there are some times when that's not an option for people. We don't have an integrated model for working with other payment systems at this time. However, we have seen some very innovative ways to work with other options. For example, you might collect funds even via cash or in some other way, and then contribute them to your own fundraiser so that they actually appear on the fundraiser page. With Generosity, it's great that there's no platform fee, so you will have the payment processor fee, but you won't have a payment. You won't have the platform fee with that. Other things you can do is post an update to share that you have received these donations and use that as a way to communicate it, even if the dollars don't appear on your fundraiser page.
Gotcha. Thank you. And is that link that I just put in the chat box the right one, stripe.com?
Probably. I so rarely go to their own site. I'm not sure.
I looked up Stripe payment. It seems to be sort of what you're
I'm sure that's probably right then.
Okay. Let's see. Another question from Virginia. Do campaigns with the 30% goal by the 48 hours generally reach their goal? I guess I want some statistics on this.
Yeah. I don't have a specific number off the top of my head, but we did come to that 30% after doing data analysis to find what percent to recommend to people and how long it should take them to hit it. So those who hit 30% within 48 days are certainly more likely to hit their goal. I don't have a specific number, but certainly yes. And then those who hit their goal quite often raise more than their goal.
Gotcha. Thank you. And a question about perks. Is there a difference between digital rewards or physical rewards in terms of popularity?
We find that people donate to fundraisers because they care about the person who's running it or the person who's benefiting from it, or they care about the purpose. So perhaps they care about your industry or your geography, or they want to be part of something bigger than themselves. So they want to participate in something that's important, or they like the actual item that they're getting, the perk itself. So the best reward levels will actually cross those lines. So they might have multiple reasons of those to donate integrated into the perk itself. Now, a physical item can be very incentivizing, and certainly on our technology campaigns, we see that the perks drive a lot of the contributions because people simply want the product. For a cause fundraiser, that's one of the reasons people donate, but if it's a product that is intricately linked to your purpose, that can be even more powerful, and if it has that aspect of participation, even more so. So for example, with the App Camp for Girls fundraiser, which is training girls to code, a perk that is a wallpaper for your iPhone or other smartphone that's created by the girls while they're at the camp is a simple digital perk for them to provide, but so meaningful and so powerful that has driven a lot of donations to their fundraiser. At the same time, they might have a tote bag. That can be fine, but I find that personally, as a donor, when I see a fundraiser, I'm more compelled by something that's more particularly connected to the impact than the product, such as a tote bag or other kind of swag style item. If you have a buy one, give one model, for example, if you happen to be the gravity light product, which is a way to use gravity to provide electricity, and you can offer an opportunity for people to buy one of these lights and donate one, that can be really effective, but it's certainly not an option that everybody has.
I think those are great suggestions. Thanks, Bre. Several more questions coming in here. So what are the IRS requirements relative to donations?
We, at this point, do not provide what I would call a tax receipt. We provide the donor information for all of our organizers to download easily with the amount they donated available. And at this point, it is up to the organizer to send the relevant information that they'd like to do for tax deductibility purposes.
Okay. And so just a clarification for my part, because the last time I did something on Indiegogo or one of these sites, it was that the donation was made to, like, say, Indiegogo Foundation. And so that was tax deductible no matter what the actual project was. Is that the case, or is this a different kind of system?
On Generosity, we've set it up such that the funds will be going through Stripe and not coming to Indiegogo as soon as we have what we call Stripe disbursements in place, which we will have by the middle of November. So in time for Giving Tuesday, it will be set up along those lines. It won't be that they go to a foundation. Indiegogo is a for-profit company, but the funds will be going through Stripe and staying and never hitting Indiegogo. So they stay through an account that is set up specifically for the nonprofit so that the nonprofit receives the funds as a direct way via Stripe.
Gotcha. And let's see, a question about, I guess, about the flexible funding versus fixed funding. So the question is, do you have to reach your goal in order to get the funds, like in Kickstarter?
Fundraisers on Generosity, as well as most of the fundraisers on Indiegogo, actually, are what we call flexible funding, so that you receive the funds whether or not you hit your goal. On Generosity, funds are dispersed monthly. Okay,
great. And can you reiterate where the resources that you mentioned during the webinar are on Indiegogo's site? And I can type that in here because a couple people asked about that, where they can find those links.
Yes, definitely. The best place to go to get all of the resources related to fundraising around causes for Giving Tuesday is igg.me/Giving Tuesday, all one word. And that is a place where you can submit your email, and we will follow up with all of the best resources that we have developed, and we will keep you updated with additional resources as they are released.
Great, thank you. I think we just have two more questions. One is, will Indiegogo openly share data from Generosity so that fundraisers can make better decisions about if and how to run a crowdfunding campaign? So it's, I guess, crowdsourcing lessons learned.
We really care about empowering our community to use fundraising when it works for them and to do it well. So we run a lot of sessions like this one and create materials like the ones that I have mentioned. We will certainly continue to do both of those things on Generosity. The data that is behind each individual fundraiser is their own data, so we certainly wouldn't release any data that is private. In aggregate, we do often look across the data and share best practices through those means like the webinars and the resources.
Okay, great. And this is a final one about the reach of Indiegogo and Indiegogo's sort of overall, I guess, crowds and audiences. So the question is that some people use crowdfunding because they think their personal networks can't get them to their goals. So maybe can you speak a little bit about Indiegogo's, I guess, platform and networks, and the people who are just tuned into Indiegogo, not necessarily attached to a particular campaign, and how people can grab the attention of those folks?
Yeah, we find that crowdfunding is a good way to expand your reach. What I do suggest is that you start with your closest community and have that initial effort start with those who you can reach and that you know. That will then generate secondary networks to come into play, which will then help us to promote you in broader networks. The Indiegogo network is made up of millions of change makers. It is people who care about changing the world. It's very, very important to them. And that's one of the reasons that I love working here, and also one of the reasons that our fundraisers do get donations from people who are on the site. The school fundraiser I mentioned did receive a $1,500 donation from somebody they had never met before who was a fan of Indiegogo and contributes to fundraisers quite often on the site. So that was really exciting to see that. It's not unusual that you'll see, because of press a fundraiser has received, it gets additional donations. What I would say is that if you're starting with a small personal community, start small with your first fundraiser and consider that as your first foray to build your network. And then once you have sourced some additional donors in that first initiative, be very clear with what you're trying to achieve. And once you hit it and do that work, you can often run a second fundraiser and actually build on that first community to get additional donors in a bigger fundraiser. And you can do that again and continue each time to build your community. So start small, start with what you know, be attainable yet inspirational. And then crowdfunding is one piece of how you grow.
That's extremely helpful. Bre, thank you so much for this presentation and for answering all of everyone's questions. I think based on the comments and all the questions people sent through, this was really useful. And I think you'll see some of our folks signing up for Giving Tuesday to do fundraising via Indiegogo.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. It was a treat to get to meet some of the folks in your community a little better, and I'll look forward to hopefully getting to work with some of them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Bye now.
Bye.